Hey everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I'm working on something I've been putting off for a while. I've had a big beautiful blue gum slab in my shop waiting for me to turn it into something new, and today is that day. In today's video we're going to be making a desk with a live edge slab. If that sounds like something you're into, hang around to see how this one turned out. This saga all starts with this big old blue gum slab. It's 50mm or 2 inches thick, and about 2.4 meters long. Now I know I look like I work out, but this thing is pretty heavy, so let's enjoy the struggle of this moment together. But with it up on the bench I can get to measuring this one out. The space I have set for this desk is 1.6 meters, or a bit over 5 foot, so I'll mark it out and try to get these lines as perpendicular as I can. There are some cracks in the end of the slab from this one drying out, but I have exactly what I need to get this done in between the cracks. With my marks laid out, I'll bust out the trusty old track saw and get this broken down. This is not the strongest track saw in the world, it's just a cheap Bunnings saw, but I think if I take it slow and cut this in a few passes it should be okay. And yep, I shouldn't be doing this unsupported hanging off the end of the bench. But these pieces are small, and if I move quick enough, hopefully they don't chew up the ends of my main piece. And it looks like that's worked, so now I can switch over to the wire wheel on the grinder and clean up this live edge. Now there isn't really any bark left on this one, but I do want to run over all the edges to make sure there isn't anything loose hanging off the edges before going too much further. Before heading off to make the legs, I just want to set the distance that I plan to inset the legs. It's probably not necessary, but I'm bad at guessing how I want things to look, and they come out looking improportional. So hopefully visualizing these on the slab will stop me from making any really bad design choices. And now for these legs. I'm an amateur woodworker at best, and the same can be said for my metal fabrication skills. But let's see how this goes. I'll start by cutting some 45s on the end of my top and bottom support pieces, and get them down to length. For the tops that'll be recessed into the wood, I'm working with about 450 or 18-inch long pieces, and for the bottom supports somewhere around 650mm or 25.5 inches. Before getting these all set, I'm going to knock out some little decorative braces. I'm pretty sure I don't need these for strength, but I would like this desk to not look like something that came from IKEA. We are supposed to be making something better, aren't we? When I picked up the steel for this project, I noticed my steel place had these 4-inch base plates that are pre-drilled. I think if I cut these in half and grind a radius out of the center into a little smile, they could look kinda cool. So I'll hog off the excess and then set the radius on the wheel of my belt grinder. And that looks like it should work, so I'll repeat the process 7 more times, and we have ourselves a little family of braces. Then I'll cut some little pieces of plate to plug the end of our pipe, and strip some of this paint off. I'm going to plug all the ends of the pipes before assembling anything to make life a bit easier when it comes time to clean up my rough welding. One thing I do know about welding stuff like this is that it will try to bend and carry on when we crank some heat into it, so I'll do my best to keep it straight by locking it down on the bench to try and combat the warpage. Then repeat the process on the longer bottom sections and get them all welded up tight. And with a little trip to the grinder to clean these up a little, we can start putting these together. I'll locate center with the main post of the leg and get it squared up, then tack it all into place and run a bead all the way around. Then I can find a home for these little brackets. I'll use an offcut to set the spacing in from the outside edge and hold them in place with a magnet from the back. Then get them tacked and welded into place. And then simply repeat the process for the top, and we have ourselves a pair of desk legs. Nope, not yet. I need a way to attach these little things to the desktop, so I'll cut down some angle into little pieces and round over all the corners, drill some holes and get these welded onto the top section. And now we have ourselves a pair of desk legs. With the legs roughly put together, I can work on getting them attached to the top. I know this probably isn't very exciting for anyone that knows anything about woodworking, but I see people recess things all the time with a router using a template, but I've never tried it myself. So I'm going to tackle it by sitting the leg on top and then building up a little frame around the shape of the leg. Then I'll stick them all down with double-sided tape. I'm getting better at filming things in general. Slowly I remember to turn the camera on and off to cut down on editing. But because of my little nubby fingernails, this scene with peeling the backing off the tape was longer than some of my finished videos. If you understand the struggle of peeling backing off tape, please hit that subscribe button so we can share the struggle together. Now I can chuck up a top bearing router bit and set the depth to the same depth as the janky frame I've just taped down, plus the depth that I want the legs to be recessed, and go to town. I was pretty nervous that the tape wouldn't hold, but it seems to be stronger than I thought, and it's kind of fun to boot. So I'll just hog out as much as I can, letting the bearing run alongside the guide until I have an even surface at the bottom. And it worked! I'll call that a win! I need to square up the corners a little with a chisel, but we have our rebate cut, and I didn't mess this whole thing up. I'll jump down the other end and repeat the process, and it went as smoothly as the first. Now for some mounting hardware. I've measured the depth of the bolts that I plan to use, so I'll pop a little bit of tape on my drill bit to mark the depth, then drill down until my tape hits the slab. Then I can screw in these little anchors until they're flush with the surface of the wood. And a quick check to make sure I haven't made any big mistakes, and that's looking pretty sturdy. Now for the fun part, some sanding. This blue gum is hard stuff. Thankfully this slab came to me pre-flattened, and the finish is pretty good, but I'll still give it a good hit with 80, 120 and 180 grit to smooth everything out. Then I'll run over all the edges with a small 3mm roundover, including the sharp live edges. I do actually plan to use this desk, and I want to make sure I don't leave heaps of sharp edges for when I'm resting my arms on the edges. It's definitely taken a little away from the irregular character, but it still has a cool vibe. Finishing time. Hard wax oil is the finish of the day. This one is a pretty low sheen, durable finish. All we need to do is pour some on, massage it into the surface, and buff off to a warm sheen. It never ceases to amaze me how warm and natural this stuff feels when it's dry. Whilst the finish on the wood is setting up, I'll hit the legs with a spray can of trusty old matte black. I'll leave these to dry, pop them all together in the morning, and we're done. This wasn't an overly complicated build, but I do think it's got a really classic yet industrial kind of look, and I'm sure it'll meet all my needs for years to come. It has some cracks and little marks, but in my eyes they all add to the piece, and I'll deal with them down the road if they become an issue. Thanks for watching the video everyone. If you liked it, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. See you on the next one!